Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Bangkok and I'm back for another Eurovision analysis video. Today is the first episode of a 3-part series doing a deep analysis into the Grand Final of Eurovision 2023. So in this episode I'm covering the general stats, what were the records set in this contest, who got their best results, who's getting the most top 10s, and one of the burning questions, how did Sweden win and why was their jury score so high? I'm going to use all the data to tell the story of what happened and answer these questions. So let's kiki. So as I mentioned in the intro there, I've actually decided to split my Grand Final analysis into 3 parts. It was just getting a bit too long and complex, and also means that I can release the videos earlier because I'd already finished editing this part so I can get it out to you sooner. While editing, I saw that everything kind of naturally fit into 3 different sections. Each episode is self-contained, you can watch them in any order, don't worry. The second episode is going to focus on the jury and going in deep dive into the power of the jury and also my suggestions for what needs to change with the jury in the future. And the third episode is going to look at the televote, the running order, and then in particular some of the countries that those 2 things really affected. Keep an eye out for those 2 videos. They're coming really soon. I'm working non-stop. I did film all these videos over several days, so there's a couple of costume changes and a couple of light changes. Sorry about that. It was totally impossible to film this all in one go. It's over 3 hours of footage in total, so to keep my energy up I decided to film in different parts so that you didn't see the life draining from my face. So with that in mind, let's go to the first part. So this is the 4th video in a series that I did. My first one, I just went through all the rankings in the final. I also did a deep analysis of semi-final number 1 and semi-final number 2. I'll leave all of those videos in the little eye if you want to watch them after you finish watching this video. So as you may know, Loreen won for Sweden with her song Tattoo. This is Sweden's 7th victory, which puts them on a tie with Ireland in terms of overall Eurovision titles won. Now personally for me, I would put Sweden ahead because all of Ireland's wins came when the competition was smaller. When you consider that countries like Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia, a lot of the Eastern European countries only started in Eurovision in the noughties or late 90s, Ireland got a lot of their titles back when those countries weren't competing. So the competition was smaller, plus we're missing some of those like real big Eurovision hitters. So the fact that Sweden have won 3 times when everybody's been there, those wins hold a little bit extra weight for me personally. So although it's a draw at the top of the table, I personally would give the lead to Sweden. And I think that they deserve it more. They'd be more consistent across more decades than Ireland has. This may be good. It could potentially put a little bit of pressure on RT, the Irish broadcaster, to up their game. Who knows? With the Irish general public, maybe losing that title might energize them a little bit, because really without the public putting pressure on RT, I don't think anything's going to change for Ireland really. And as we know, we see Luxembourg there with 5. They're going to be joining the competition next year. Interesting to see, are they going to be able to qualify or not? I don't think they're going to get a free pass to the final. Okay, so let's first talk about Loreen from Sweden. She is our 2nd 2-time winner after Johnny Logan. I like this graph that Eurovania on Twitter did, showing all the contestants who've won and then come back to the competition. So she's the first female double winner, and then Johnny Logan has 2 wins, but he also wrote a song as well. So 2 wins as an artist and 1 win as a composer. But yeah, Loreen is currently and probably will forever be the queen of Eurovision. And I have to admit, if I ever thought that someone was going to win 3 times, I think the only person who can possibly ever do it is Loreen. In terms of who our next double winner will be, it might take a long time. We have to wait 36 years between Johnny Logan and Loreen. But if I had to guess right now, it would probably be Måns Zelmerlöw. I know that he would potentially come back if he had the right song, but the next double winner might not even have been born yet, or there might never be one again because the competition is getting so much more competitive. So let's take a look at the winning margin. So before the contest happened, the odds really had Loreen as a heavy favorite throughout the whole season, kind of making it look like it was very one-sided. In the end though, her winning margin wasn't that big. It was only 57 points, which works out at 1.5 points per country. If we look at the last 7 winners since 2016, that's when we started getting the televote and jury split. We see actually it's the 4th highest margin, so pretty average in terms of a winning margin. Salvador Sobral, Kalash Orchestra, and Neda all won by larger margins than Loreen did. So yeah, it wasn't the total whitewash that the bookies predicted. And that's good. I'm glad that it ended up being a little bit closer and a bit more exciting than they had predicted it to be. So what was the decisive factor for Loreen in beating Käärijä from Finland into 2nd place? And as we know, it was that absolutely deliciously gigantic jury score that she got. Now, just to put this in context, I've gone through and taken the jury winner from every single year and compared them to their biggest rival, whether that be the eventual first place or second place, and seeing how much of a lead they had at the end of the jury segment. And if we look at that, we see that Lorraine had a 190 point lead over Kaya. That is absolutely gigantic. 133% points more than him, so over double his points plus an extra third. And if we see, previous biggest margin we ever had was Damiim having a 109 point lead over Jamala from Ukraine, of which Jamala made that back, obviously. And I think Jamala ended up winning by around 25 points. So Damiim had a 52% points advantage over Jamala going into the televote segment. Lorraine had a 133% advantage. That is absolutely gigantic. It was a little bit of a anticlimax because I think if it had just been a little bit smaller, it would have made it even more exciting. As I said, in the end, the margins weren't too big in terms of how much she beat him by, but maybe if it happened the other way around as well, yeah, having such a gigantic jury score did kill the excitement a tiny bit. But yeah, this is an unprecedented advantage over a rival, almost triple the previous biggest advantage that we've ever seen. And the other thing is that we knew that it was going to be between those two. That was always the story before. Really, there was no one else who was kind of close to catching them. And in the end, the scores showed that as well, because third place was quite a way off. So is this the biggest jury score we've ever had? Technically, yes, but untechnically, no. I'll explain what that means now. So if you go back and we look at the jury points, who got the most points from the jury? The winner would be Salvador Sobral. He got 382. Second place would be Mon Zemilov, who got 363. And third place will be Lorraine, 340 points. But if you factor in how many countries were in each competition, so obviously Salvador in 2017 had 42 countries, whereas this year we only had 37. So 5 juries less potentially giving her points. So we need to factor that in. And when you divide by that, Lorraine comes out as winning in terms of the most points received per available jury. So she got 9.44 points per jury. Salvador Sobral got 9.32. And Mons is in third with 9.31. But this is where the technicality of the technicality comes in. Personally, I don't count Bulgaria's votes in 2017. In case you didn't know, Bulgaria, in my opinion, completely rigged those votes. I'll show you this now. This is a graph from Eurovisionario on Twitter, who is a Spanish Eurovision stats person. You can see there that Bulgaria at the bottom coming 23rd. Everyone else is putting them in the top 10. So literally every single other country, at least 2 of the jurors put Portugal in the top 5, apart from Italy and Montenegro. And even Italy had someone put it first, and Montenegro had 2 in the top 10. And then you have Bulgaria, who are just like completely, literally way lower down. And of course, Bulgaria came second that year, and they knew that it was between them and Portugal. So this is just blatant jury rigging. I'm not sure why this jury wasn't penalized for it. So I would almost discount that jury. And when you then divide Portugal's score by 1 less, he becomes the highest. Officially, Lorraine has got the most points per jury ever. Unofficially, if you get rid of that dodgy Bulgarian vote, Salvador still has the most points per jury record. Pick a side, I don't know. Hopefully this won't divide the community in two, which type of person you are. Now let's have a look and see where each of the 178 jurors who could vote for Sweden, there were 185 in total, but only 178 could vote for Sweden. Let's see where they all ranked her. You can see there's a lot of ones here. There's a lot of yellows. Again, thank you to Eurovisionario for compiling this. It's a very time-consuming thing to do. So of those 178 jurors, 135 of them put Lorraine in the top 5. That is 76%. That is absolutely utterly crazy. And 154 had her in their top 10. So that's 87%. So 13% of jurors had Lorraine outside their top 10. I think her lowest ranking was, is it 17? From Iceland and Portugal. So nobody ranked her below 17. And this is similar to what we saw with your jury before, that she was just consistently getting points from everyone. It's so hard to not reward this performance because it was so utterly spectacular, which I'll go into more detail later. Okay, so why was this jury score so big? Well, let's first recall that before Eurovision happened, the big discussion about the jury points was who was going to win the jury. Was it going to be Sweden or France or Spain? Now, most people presumed it was going to be Sweden. I think like pretty much everybody said that that was going to happen, and you can see in the bookies she had the best odds by far. But her main rivals right up until the end were considered France and Spain. I'll show you a tweet here where I thought it was going to be between her, Spain and Italy, I wasn't feeling like France had the momentum, particularly after the jury final. But yeah, in the end, it wasn't close. She really did win that mini battle between France and Spain, and they were her main rivals, and they were so close together as well. France drawn 6th, Spain's drawn 8th, and Lorraine drawn 9th. I'm not sure maybe if they were spread apart would have made a difference, but probably not. So obviously Spain, France and Sweden couldn't vote for themselves, so let's exclude those 3 juries and look at the other 34 and see, of those other 34 juries, how many of them put Sweden top, how many of them put Spain top, and how many of them put France top. Of 34, 33 of them put Sweden highest in their points. So the only jury that gave more points to Spain than Sweden was Portugal. They put Spain second. Australia was their number 1. France did not beat Sweden once. This for me is the key thing of what happened in the Eurovision final. There was this big battle. Who's gonna be able to take points away from Lorraine? Who is gonna chip away at her lead so that Garriott can come in with his televote and win? And the 2 main ladies who we thought were potentially going to do that, they just did not happen at all. Like, not even close. They only beat her once out of 34 times. So this is the crazy thing of what happened that they were ineffective at being higher ranked than Lorraine was. Now, I also went through all the individual jurors as well. So I went through all 183 jurors and see who did they have ranked highest out of the 3. 141 of them had Sweden ranked the highest, so 77.1. Second place, Spain with 16.9. 31 jurors had Spain ranked the highest of those 3. And then in last place, France had 11. So that's 6%. But 5 of those 11 were from Sweden. All 5 Swedish jurors ranked France higher than Spain. And the Swedish probably didn't particularly like Spain either. So that just seems to be a regional thing, that they just weren't feeling Spain. Sweden won. Sweden won that mini battle. It was like a rock, paper, scissors, but not really. It was like a big rock against a mini scissors and a very tiny piece of paper. So the fact that those 2 rivals weren't taking points away she just ended up dominating the jury. And also those 2 ended up acting as buffers. Not only were they not taking points away from Lorraine, but they were acting as a shield for her to take points away from her actual rivals. So who were Lorraine's actual rivals? Who were the people who actually took points off her? So what I did is I went through all of the jury points, and any time that Lorraine didn't win a jury, I looked and checked to see who was above her. So if she got 8 points, I checked who got 10, who got 12, and then I added up all the points that were taken from her by those countries above her. And in first place was actually Noah Corel from Israel. So for all the hype about Lazara and Blanca Paloma being Lorraine's biggest competitions, it was a different lady. It was Noah Corel from Israel. And another lady in second place was Alika from Estonia. She took 8 points off of Lorraine. And then third place was Marco Mangoni from Italy. So he took 7, and then Austria took 7 as well. So you can see these are all the countries who were above Sweden in the jury scores. And you can see right at the bottom there, Spain took 1 point off Sweden. You can also see that 4 of the top 6 are from semi-final number 2. Okay, so why do Sweden always do so well with the jury? Well, let's look and see. We can see now they have a history of consistently being high up in the jury. And why is that? Now, I tend to think of Sweden as the good schoolgirl of Eurovision. She always shows up to classes, she's done all her homework, uniform looks perfect, she brings the teacher an apple, she's quiet in class, she listens, she pays attention, she does everything that's asked of her. This is Sweden at Eurovision. They are well-behaved, respectful, super professional and high quality. I personally think they deserve their scores. I think they bring their best. Even if it doesn't always work, there's a huge amount of professionalism and effort that's put in every single year. They always bring a super well-produced song. This is a big part of their music industry. Music production for them is like one of their big worldwide exports. So this is something that they have layers and layers of quality that they can draw from. Every year they send a great performer. I think that's partly down to their national fund, Melodifestivalen, which has been running for decades now. You cannot make it through Melodifestivalen unless you're able to perform. It is so competitive with so many good quality artists and songs that if you aren't able to cut it on the stage, there's no way that you're going to win Melodifestivalen. And that's why every single year we have a brilliant performer from Sweden. I can't think of a time where we've been worrying about their rehearsals. Are they going to be able to sing? Are they going to have good charisma on the stage? That conversation doesn't happen with Sweden because they've already vetted out anyone who isn't good on stage from their national final. And again, this is an advantage of having a national final, is to weed out those people who are not a natural talent on the stage. We never get any bum notes, we never get any crappy staging. Because Melodifestivalen is so competitive, everyone shows up with their staging already completed. We see in so many other national finals that people are kind of processing their staging. They maybe show off like 75% of it at the national final, and then they'll tweak it a little bit. Everyone in Melfest shows up with the staging completed. They've been planning it since October, November of the previous year. It looks slick, it's interesting, it's using technology, it's creative. They're trying, they're really trying. And considering that we're quite critical of some countries who don't try, like Romania, who've got corruption issues, and Ireland, RT just don't really care about the competition. And we're saying to these countries, please care, please put in a little bit of effort. And then we have this good schoolgirl who's doing all her homework, putting her best foot forward every single year, and then people are kind of hating on her. So we kind of need to be a little bit careful about where we sit, because we do want countries to put their best foot forward and actually try. And that's what Sweden does every single year. And that's why I think they do so well with the jury. Now, that really heavily produced, overthought product that they produce can work against them, because it sometimes feels a little bit too robotic. It doesn't feel natural or raw enough, and that's why they've struggled on the television. And that's one of the things that Lorraine did so good this year, is she brought a rawness to the performance when she's standing there just baring her chest, like giving every single ounce of her being into the song. That was a real game changer this year in turning around Sweden's televote in particular. They knew that they were going to do well with the jury. Again, like I said, they come prepared. Televotes being more of an issue, making that emotional connection with the audience. Lorraine did this year. As a performer, I think she's exceptional. Her passion, emotion she brings, everything from her fingertips, the nails, the hairstyling, her body language throughout the whole thing, these small, delicate mannerisms that she does, just really incredible performer. Brilliant voice. She sounded great in all the rehearsals. Even when it sounded off, it still sounded on, because it worked with this emotion of the song where she's like, I don't want anything but you, I'm desperate, this kind of pleading angst that came across in the song. So this is also one of the advantages that Lorraine had, just from the fact that she is such an established performer within the Melodifestivalen circle. She can pick and choose her songs, where some artists are given like a couple of options, they have to just take what they're given. She has the luxury of saying, I will only pick a song I really love, and she had that magic connection with the song, and that really came across on stage. So that needs to be factored in as well. Not every artist has the luxury of being paired with a song that's such a good match for them. I also think there's very few people who could pull off Tattoo. That staging was immense, really melodramatic. I think there's very few performers who would be able to get on that stage and not be swallowed up. She's incredible in being able to hold her own and emote, not be nervous, stay in command of a very overwhelming show and still be the main focus. In terms of strategy, I think Sweden were very good this year. The song definitely lacked originality, but they made up for that with the staging. In case you remember my top 37 video, where I originally put Sweden outside the top 10 because I was only going by the studio version, if you ask me now to rate Sweden with all the staging and performer in mind, this does get into my top 10, probably around my 9th or 10th. I haven't decided who would win between her and Blanca Paloma. This Dune fantasy planet field was just absolutely incredible. So I love the strategic use of making up for that, particularly that originality marking criteria in the jury, by bringing original staging instead. And just every aspect of this: cinematography, lighting, styling, costume design. This is Sweden utilizing all the things that they do well, not just a performer and a song, but like all of the potential team who can come together to add just that little bit extra to the performance to give it that really neat, polished look. This is why Sweden are so strong. They've got this depth in multiple fields. So yeah, personally, I just don't see as a juror how you can rank this outside the top 10. So spectacular. Even if you don't like the song, you can't look at this and go, wow, this is not a television production wonder piece. So what's the solution to Sweden dominating the jury? Well, it seems that some people want to drag them down. In sport, if you had someone who's winning all the Grand Slams or all the football leagues, would you say to them, okay, we need to handicap to bring them down? Or would you say, okay, all their rivals need to do better to meet them? Other people need to up their game. Anyone could have sent that song with that staging with a really high quality artist. But the thing is, a lot of countries just don't. They aren't thinking outside the box. They aren't putting enough innovation and creativity in. They just aren't putting the same amount of work and passion that Sweden do. Now, some countries do. I think Ukraine really brings it. I think Italy as well recently have bought top quality artists with really, really like international hit songs. Even though I don't always like them all the time, they do extremely well on streaming. So other countries are bringing as well. I think Norway have been really good recently. Finland in the last 3 years has been great as well. So other countries are going up. So the solution is not to drag everyone down. It's that everyone else looks at Sweden and says, we can also do that. It's not just about money. You think about Doritos from Moldova, My Lucky Day. That staging was brilliant and entertaining and fun, and that didn't cost a lot. Moldova are able to bring really cool, fun staging on a budget. They did as well this year. Their song was top 10 in the televote, despite the fact that they didn't have very much like expensive gimmicks or anything like that. They just used really cool choreography and costumes to make an amazing stage show. And just imagine if everybody did an incredible stage show like Sweden, how awesome would the final be? It would just be like absolutely incredibly wild. And that's one of the things I'll say about Noah Corral is I thought she brought a spectacular stage show. This song I think was 20th in my rankings when I did my top 37 video. It's now in my top 5. I thought that stage production was just everything I just said about Sweden, I also applied to Israel. I thought their show looked amazing. I thought they were very deserving of being second in the jury. I've seen a lot of people saying they don't deserve it. I disagree. I think the choreography, costumes, the story of the performance, how great the dancers and the choreography were, I think it was really well deserved. Now, do I think that Sweden deserved to have almost double the amount of jury points than second place? No, I don't. I definitely think that Lorraine's points were very exaggerated, and that's partly due to the fact that the jury was so disproportionately pop professionals. This is something I'm going to go into extreme detail in my second video. That episode is going to be focused on the jury. Who are they? How much power do they have? And how do their rankings function? And also, what changes do I think need to be made? I do think we need to keep the jury, but I do think that they need to be revamped a little bit. I do understand people getting frustrated, particularly if you don't like the Swedish entries, because they can be quite repetitive in their styling. So if you don't enjoy that style of music or the type of presentation, you're pretty much getting the same thing every single year. It can feel quite formulaic, and that can be frustrating if it's continually doing very, very well and you're just seeing something that appears to be already done before. So there's a saying in the community that if Sweden sent this, it would win the jury. It's a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I don't personally agree with it. The only evidence for that is just the fact that Sweden does so well in the jury every year. But really the reason that that happens is because they continually meet the jury criteria. They come in with a strong strategy of ticking all of those jury boxes. That's a very valid strategy to have. The jury criteria hasn't changed much in recent years, so anybody can come with that strategy. And we do see other countries do that sometimes. I remember Austria went through a jury bait period as well. Anybody can come with a jury bait song and do well with the jury if they so choose. Just often countries either don't want to do that, or they've got a different strategy, or they don't have the skills to provide such a package. Personally, I don't think that the jury members look at certain countries and have a bias towards them. I don't think the majority of jurors can even remember who was in the contest last year, let alone 2 years ago, or even have like a structured identity for each country. I really just think that they're way too casual for that. I think us as more passionate fans, we know that, you know, Moldova tends to do this and Italy tends to do that. I don't think that the jurors have that mentality at all. I think this is us projecting our intense passion for the competition and knowledge of each country onto them. Let's talk briefly about the Big Five results, and I was kind of disappointed in this. I was hyping up this year as potentially being one of the strongest Big Five years. We're going back to Eurovisionario, who calculated all of the results in previous years, and actually it's kind of middle of the table. If you add up all of the Big Five results and then find the average, it actually falls somewhere in the middle. So the best year was actually still 2022, when UK came second, Spain came third, Germany came last, Italy were sixth. Where were France? Oh, France were second last. So it's always quite extreme with the top, the Big Five. They're either in the top or in the bottom. It's very rare. Actually, this year they're in the middle because France came 16th and Spain came 17th. But yeah, a lot of the time it's either like all or nothing. But yeah, the average ranking this year was 18, so a little bit disappointed to see that. So look, the Big Five just didn't deliver in the same way. I was kind of disappointed. I really want the Big Five to do really well, but it wasn't the worst year. The worst year still is 2015. Okay, so did anybody get their best ranking for a while? Not really, unfortunately. I think there was a lot of hype about Slovenia possibly getting their first top 12 result since 2001. That was one of my big hopes. Unfortunately, they didn't. They came 21st, so they got the numbers the wrong way around. Finland got their best results since 2006, obviously since Lordi won. Belgium and Croatia got their best results since 2017. That's not too far back. Austria got their best results since 2018, and Armenia got their best results since 2016. But nobody got their best result ever, unfortunately. There aren't too many people who can get that. Slovenia have never been top 5. Lithuania have never been top 5. San Marino's never been top 17. Definitely not top 15. I think their best result ever is 18th or 19th. So yeah, those are some of the records that could have potentially been broken, but none of them were. And let's have a look at the new qualification streaks that have happened now. So now I've included all countries. I haven't just included countries from this year because I want to do an official big graph, but these are the qualification streaks for everyone who currently can compete at Eurovision. And we see that Ukraine is really doing well, plus 13. They've qualified 100% of the time. Sweden are on plus 10, Norway plus 6, Serbia plus 5, although they scraped in this year in 10th. Switzerland, the kind of underdogs, people don't really think about them too often, but they are plus 4. Finland, Moldova, Portugal, Belgium, and Lithuania all on plus 3. Now, Finland, Portugal, and Lithuania are 3 countries in particular for me who I feel like have made changes and are really doing well from those changes. And then we have lots of countries on plus 1 and plus 2. Luxembourg, coming back to the competition this year, have never had to qualify before. Let's see how that goes. Morocco on 0 and could potentially come back. Who knows? They last competed in 1980. Then we have several countries on minus 1. And then in the last place, we have Latvia, Georgia, and Andorra on minus 6. Ireland living on minus 4 with Slovakia, so close to the bottom. Okay, so who made it into the top 10? Now, there's a lot of emphasis on who wins, who comes second, third, etc. But for me, one of the big achievements in Eurovision nowadays is just getting into the top 10. That is one of the big medals I think a lot of countries should be striving for. It's so difficult to get into the top 10. So let's have a look and see who achieved that this year. 10th place, we had Czechia. 9th place, we had Australia. 8th for Estonia, really surprising they got so high up. That incredible jury score, coming 5th with the juries, bringing them really high up. Belgium coming 7th, really incredible 7th place from Belgium, considering that this song really was quite unpopular when it was released. It got a lot of slack. A lot of people, including myself, not even sure if it was going to be able to qualify. To not only qualify, but then to get a top 10 place, and this is just really clever strategizing. This is getting every single bit of juice you can out of an orange. There is no juice left in that orange. The Belgian delegation and Gustav milked every single drop out of it. So fair play to them for that. 6th place for Ukraine, and then we get into the top 5. 5th place for Norway. Keep in mind they came top 10 last year as well. They were 10th last year. Italy, again, also top 10 this year in 4th place. Noah Corell in 3rd. So 3rd and 4th, we have 2 extremely established artists in their countries. 2 countries sending probably some of their biggest stars and getting extremely good results from doing that. 2nd place for Bulgaria and 1st place for Sweden. So let's look back at the last 10 years and see which countries have been in the top 10 the most. So this is something that I tweeted about last week, and we can see Sweden and Italy are the leaders. 8 of the last 10 contests they have been in the top 10. That is absolutely incredible. So for Sweden, I believe the 2 times they weren't in were Tusa and Robin Sternberg. And for Italy, the 2 times they weren't in the top 10 was Francesca Michelin and Emma. So unfortunately, the 2 times that Italy have sent female artists are the 2 times they're outside the top 10. So as much as I really want Italy to send a female artist, in fairness, Italy does a lot better when they send a guy based on those statistics. Of course, there's definitely some Italian females who can get Italy a top result, because Nina Zilli did that in 2010. She came 9th. 8 out of 10 top 10s is just incredible. These are 2 powerhouses in Eurovision. I would put Ukraine in there as well, currently on 6th. But keep in mind that Ukraine missed 2015 and 2019. 2019 was Siren Song. I think that definitely would have been top 10, 100%. So yeah, they've got 6 out of 8. So you could say potentially they're kind of percentage-wise, they're at the top. Those are the 3 powerhouses for me at this point in time. We've got Norway with 7 top 10 finishes. Again, amazing consistency, but none of them are top 3. So that's something that Norway needs to work on, is how are they going to break into that top 3? Usually doing very well with televote, but they need to do well with televote and the jury if they want to get that win. I do think Norway are coming for a win. I think they've been so strong recently. One of my favorite countries in Eurovision. I love MGP, so I would like to see Norway get that win. I've never been there as well, so I want them to win, so I have an excuse to go to Norway. It's going to be very, very expensive. I'm going to start saving for it now, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice for Norway. So we have 6 top 10s for Ukraine and Russia, who are obviously out of the competition right now. 5 top 10s for Australia. That's absolutely not incredible. I'm going to talk about Australia when I go into my televote video. I'm going to do a big thing on them, what happened to Australia between the semi-finals and the finals. But yeah, 5 top 10 finishes. That is the 6th best out of every country in Eurovision. Australia coming up from Oceania and teaching Europe how to do Eurovision Song Contest. We can't lose Australia. Literally, just they're incredible. And Australia, similar to Ukraine, that's only out of 8. So look, if you're lucky, okay, I'm going to be nice. I'll give you percentages as well here if we look at percentages. I don't know what the results are, so I can't comment on it, but you can see it and you can devise yourself that when you factor in the percentage of contests attended, how many top 10s were gotten in the last 10 years. Australia and Ukraine doing even better. 4 for Belgium. I think this is one that's really overlooked, how strong the Belgian delegation have been. Obviously, the Belgium, it switches between the 2 broadcasters each year. We have Wallonia and Flanders, 2 different systems. I think that little competition between the 2 broadcasters that some people say doesn't exist, I think there's a little bit of healthy competition between them. And I like the way that of those 4, 2 are from the Flemish broadcaster and 2 are from the French. So it's not like one is like way better than the other. I like that they've got like an even draw going on. So that's really cool. And then we have lots of countries who've got 3 top 10s. So Greece, Netherlands, Moldova, Estonia getting one this year, Israel, Hungary, and Denmark. Lots of countries on 2 as well. I won't list all of them. There's quite a lot there. And then we've lots of countries who've got 1. And then we look at the countries who have not been in the top 10 in the last 10 years. Ireland, of course, our best result was 16th with Ryan O'Shaughnessy. Georgia, San Marino, Croatia, Slovenia, Albania, and Belarus are currently out of the competition. So those 6 countries who are currently participating have not been top 10 in 10 years. That has got to be their goal. But it's nice to see that actually the majority of countries have been in the top 10, showing that it's not political. Everyone all over Europe can get top 10 if they send something good enough. I feel like Croatia and Slovenia kind of turned a little bit of a corner this year. They tried something new and they had relative success. They qualified, didn't maybe do as well as expected, but Croatia came 13th, which I thought was really excellent. Albania is actually surprising as well. I showed you the qualification streaks earlier in the video where Albania were +1, but if it wasn't for Ronella not qualifying last year, Albania would actually be +5. That's quite surprising. So although they haven't broken the top 10 since Rona Nishlu in 2012, they've qualified 4 of the last 5 years. So Albania actually aren't doing that badly. I still want to see them do that extra little bit, that extra special something to get even higher. Really, Ronella last year should have qualified. That staging was a little bit of a disaster, a little bit of a hot mess. But yeah, 4 out of 5 is really, really, really good for them. So kind of disappointing to see that they are one of the countries who haven't been top 10 in the last 10 years. But I would say of all those, they are the strongest. So I want Albania to get back into the top 10 really, really, really soon. Okay, so that's all from my first episode of my analysis of the Grand Final. I got 2 more videos coming up. One where I focus on the jury, all the controversy about them. I'm going to do a deep analysis of how much power do they have and how do they influence the competition, and what changes I think need to be made to the jury to make the competition better for the future. And then the 3rd episode is going to be focused on the televote. I'm also going to use the televote to show what happened to Austria, Australia, and some of the other countries who maybe did not as well as they were expecting. So keep an eye out for those videos. A couple of shout outs. Thank you so much to Zach L, Alex Hodder for supporting me on PayPal. You guys are awesome. Also big love to Chris and Ryan, Is It You Les, and Rose for supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. I feel very caffeinated. Thank you very much. And also thank you to Sweet Q and Alexo for super thanks. Thank you everyone for your support. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you give it a thumb up. I'll also leave a couple of extra videos for you here if you want to check them out. And thanks so much for watching. See you in another Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah. This is going to be so long.